up. Let's see. Welcome. Hope you had a nice weekend. This is my little weekday show called Jessica and the Rainbow in Rainbowland. And yeah, I borrowed a theme song from a kid's album I haven't finished. I'm going to sing it for you. Here we go. Rainbow, family of friends, we're all friends in a rainbow world. Rainbow, family of friends, we're rainbow friends. Hi, Chad. So yeah, this is called JiTR in Rainbowland, Jessica in the Rainbow in Rainbowland, however you want to say it. I don't really care. I decided to give this week a theme. So this week's theme is, ooh, look at all those nice little hearts. Thanks, guys. So this week's theme is creativity as therapy. This was a TED Talk I was going to make, given the world and also myself, how I am, which is having millions of ideas and not enough time and or interest in polishing things to manifest and bring them all into the world. Actually, I feel like I actually do, to be a little kinder to myself, I do bring a lot into the world. I just don't have as much of an interest in like business or polishing things. So finishing a 20-minute TED Talk might not be in my future. However, coffee break. I like to show. I'd show you how this is supposed to look right side up, except then all the coffee would spill out. Anyway, yeah, so creativity as therapy. That was a title for a TED Talk that I wanted to do someday, but instead it is the theme for this week of JiTR in Rainbowland, or Jessica in the Rainbow in Rainbowland. And I had actually decided anyway, if I was ever going to do a TED Talk, to make the title a little more inflammatory anyway, because this one company was saying that TED Talks go viral if the theme is something a little bit more of a hook, like, thanks, Lacey. So far, okay. I notice these comments don't show up on YouTube, so it's just me suddenly interrupting my sentences and going, aw, thanks. And so here, I'll read them. Chad said, morning, lass. And Lacey said, your voice is so beautiful and soothing to the soul. Thank you for sharing your talents with us. And then like a red heart and some music notes. That's really sweet. Thank you. Hi, Steven. So yeah, so I was going to change my TED Talk title to something like, I don't even know, like, why I'm anti-therapy, or I don't even know what I was going to say, but basically, something slightly inflammatory to like grab people's attention. But then I was just going to talk about how in the TED Talk, the imaginary TED Talk that never happened, how basically, how therapy for me is I think the thing that's not talked about with people, this is the intro, I'm not even supposed to get deep yet, but I'll still say it. Okay. Therapy for me, the piece that was never acknowledged back when I was going to therapy and on and off, finding different relationships and situations that worked or didn't work. But the piece about therapy that didn't always work for me, well, two pieces. One piece of it that didn't always work for me is that it's a relationship. And so therapy, capital T therapy, is not one neutral thing. It's millions of different things based on the intelligence or the emotional intelligence or the ability to manage their emotions that day of that therapist. And so, when there are blanket statements made in the world like therapy is useful, it's like, well, it is if you find a therapist that is a good match for you, or it is if you find a situation where you can generate trust. So for me, I often didn't find that. I would feel like a therapist would be great at one time, and then another time I would feel like I was their paycheck. And that was really hard for me to be aware of and sensitive to over the years. And I don't think anyone was trying to make me feel that way, but at the end of the day, it was an imbalanced relationship where I knew nothing about them and they knew a lot of things about me and they're the authority. Oh, so that's part two. That's the other thing that was hard for me with therapy is I already struggle in situations where there's an authority figure and I'm supposed to feel small and less than. Like, it puts me in, like, victim mentality, and I either become a sheeple, and I follow blindly, or I become defiant, and both of those are challenging for me. So I still seek out therapeutic relationships, but just a little looser than traditional therapy. Anyway, there's the short version of my TED Talk. So for today, and for all week, I'm going to reframe this show a little bit. It'll still be the same unformed, meandering thing that it is. And I translate all of these. I copy-paste them and put them on my YouTube. I can't edit them for some reason. These videos don't allow me to edit. But for this week, it'll have a little bit more of a theme. And the theme is creativity as therapy. So how you can use creativity as a therapy in your life. And how you can process and go through all kinds of inner experiences just using, whatever's around your house, whatever's in your mind, whatever's in your heart, and I'll just give you more tools. I mean, I've already just been giving tools and stuff, so. All right. So, the first part of this show is the music lesson. So, I'm going to show you. Music lesson. Dun-dun-dun-dun. All right, so we're going to head on over to the piano. Oops, oh, that just fell out. I'll show you that. I think I showed that at the end of the show on Friday. That's a very helpful quote that I read or saw in a show. Okay, so today's music lesson is going to be a little quick because they've been getting really long, and that wasn't really meant to be the point of the show. So if you want to watch the music lessons in the show, all of the old clips are up on YouTube. The music lesson is always the first segment. Here's all the segments I'm going to take you through today. And here we go. So, kind of quick one today. I'm not going to review everything that I've already been teaching, but like I said, just go back and watch those old ones if you want to learn this. But let's just take a C chord. And all I'm going to show you today is that overall I've been talking a lot about playing chords. I've been talking a lot about how to do them in the left hand so that they match better. Just drop out that middle finger. But what I haven't talked about is just how to fancy it up a little bit. So for today, quick music lesson today is just, so a chord being every other note, and it's also called a triad. And we've talked through all these different chords in the key of C, also known as the chord scale. But all you need to know for today's lesson is that you don't just have to play the chords. You can also break up the chords is what they would say. And so we're just going to do one particular broken chord pattern today. So what you do, once you've had the finger strength to do this, you just take the middle finger, sorry, not flipping you off, and the pinky. And you're going to play those at a separate time from your thumb now. So you're going to play that first, and then you're going to play the thumb. And we're just going to go like bing, bing. That's it. That's today's entire music lesson. So once you get it faster, it starts to sound like Imagine, a John Lennon song. Also, you can start experimenting with that shape. So this is a kind of classic 80s and 90s sound. I guess I've heard it in some modern stuff. I hear it a lot in piano books, and you can add little fills anywhere you want. You can also just keep in your root shapes. So that's still just the root shape. Root chord. I won't get into all of that again. I'm obsessed with music theory and I love teaching it, but the last 8 shows I've taught it a lot. And it's been kind of like what I've been focusing on for like the first 15 minutes of the show. So I'm trying to like condense this segment a little bit today or this week as we talk more about how to use creativity as therapy this week. So those are some tools. If you need more songwriting tools or more piano tools, like I said, this is the 9th episode. It's back. It's all on my YouTube, or it's on my personal Facebook, but you'd have to scroll through all my other posts. But yeah, YouTube, just go Jessica in the Rainbow. On YouTube, you'll see like 700 videos, but look for the ones that say JiTR in Rainbowland, or Jessica in the Rainbow in Rainbowland. Anyway, okay, there's the music lesson for today. Next, it's time for the doodle share. Okay, so the doodle share is all about trying to inspire you. This is my doodle chair. I decided to call it the doodle, the doodle chair, but it's also just a chair. So my whole point of the doodle share is I want to inspire you to create things, and they don't have to be big deal things. I'm trying to see, where did I put my, oh, it's over there. Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to set this up and then go grab my doodle for the day. So it's actually a little too low, I think. Gotta take out the charger. It's flopping around. Okay. Woo. All right. Today's doodle is pretty basic, but so how this relates to creativity as therapy. The doodles I've been sharing so far have been more about you or something outward, like I make these snails or these cute little frogs, and then, you know, that's something that I would share. But what I want to focus on a little more this week is how I use doodles to uplift myself, and to inspire you to do the same. So I'm a big journaler. You may have noticed last week, this was the journal I was in, but I journal quickly and often. Again, creativity as therapy. Journaling, a lot of people don't think of journaling as creative. In my opinion, it's hyper creative. It's super duper creative. And the book that I'm going to talk about in the book report today is going to really hit that home because, well, I'll tell you when I get there. Oh, Steven's sharing something really nice. Okay, hold on. Oh, it's saying see more, but it won't let me click on it. Well, Steven's sharing about his experiences with a therapist that he really trusts. So see, I love hearing that. Exactly. Like, I'm not anti-therapy as a whole. That's why, like I said, if I did that TED Talk, it would just be an inflammatory title. I'm just anti being pro-therapy as a whole. I'm anti being fundamentalist about anything. There is no one thing that is right for everyone. Well, that triggers some thoughts on some spiritual stuff, but I'll share that in the spiritual stuff component of the show. So back to doodle share. So, and thanks for sharing that, Stephen. Yeah, so in the doodle share this week, I just really want to focus on how I uplift myself. And this is going to look really silly because this is like very childlike and it won't even stay open. Anyway, stay open. Here we go. That is something I do in the corner of many journal pages. Now, I just made a fake journal page, although some of my journal pages do just say hello, and then I, quote unquote, waste the page. There's a lot of, like, dumb adult thoughts that linger in people's heads. Oh, see, there's more. Oops, I don't want to share my secret thoughts. Secret thoughts. No, that's not a segment. No! Okay, I'll go here. So, I'm going to show you how to do it. Like you don't know how to do it. I don't even know why I chose a journal that won't stay open on its own. All right, so here you go. If you want to make a sunshine in the corner of your journal. I don't even think that's how I do it. I think I go from the bottom up. Yep, I do. And then I always do 7 little beams. Long one, short one. Long one, short one. Long one, short one, long one. That's it. That's how you can make your journals happier. So that's the doodle share for today. And, you know, sometimes, you know, little, oh, I guess I won't show you how to make stars. Just kidding. That won't be one of my doodles. It really does uplift me in the corner of my journals. I think I only started this journal like this week. Yeah. So it's even on the front of my journal this time. Normally I just do a heart. I think I'm going to do that later this week. But I just do doodly type to uplift myself. Uh-oh, I said I always do 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess I did 8 that time. But it's a very, I don't know, uplifting thing to do, is to doodle. So, don't have to be a good artist to enjoy doodling. All right, next up, show and tell. I can't just tell you about it. I got to show you the... It's time for show and tell. Bam. Okay, today's show and tell, I'm going to show you and tell you about my childhood Casio. This Casio is the exact same one I had as a kid, although I got this one on eBay. Mine as a kid didn't have the letters on it. I know they're backwards right now. But it's the same model. Whoops! And it's just really great. I'm going to use it in my song at the end of the show today. Lately, I just use it for beats because it's really good beats. But when I was a kid, I used to turn all these knobs on. And then I would make up songs over the top of that. So if you want to order a Casio, like say you don't have much songwriting knowledge, like I didn't when I was early elementary school before I took piano lessons. Like it kind of makes a song for you. All you'd have to learn is like basic like key of C or key of anything chord progressions. But you could even just experiment and learn them. There's lots of variations, but I don't want to change the settings because I have them all set for my show. If you don't like the arpeggio, you can take that off. There you go. That's the show and tell for today. So I highly recommend it. It's a Casio Tone MT68. But you can go on eBay and get all kinds of like old instruments like that. The nowadays keyboards, I'll show you the one that I got at Toys R Us before they closed down. So I love this one, but it doesn't have the beats and it doesn't have the ability to just hit one note and then have like a whole bass line chord progression. I wish it did, but the new ones don't. So, at least not this model. This is like in the $49 range. This old one was like 70-something on eBay. So, and that's used. Super used. All right, so that's the show and tell for today. Yeah. I highly, also, creativity as therapy, how that relates to that is, you know, I didn't think through how the show and tell would relate to creativity as therapy. I've never put an overlay theme on one of these shows. So I think, yeah, maybe all week I'll show you things that I use for my creativity in the show and tell. And so obviously that's a very useful tool because I can use those in my car. I can use those to write songs at a park because they're battery powered. You can write anywhere in your house. They're very simple. They're very easy ways to be creative. And you just sing over the top of anything you play. Or I know a lot of people who don't like to express words or use their singing voices, and you don't have to be creative. I have a lot of friends. Maybe I'll show you some tapes. I have friends who release ambient music, and I finally bought like a CD and cassette tape player down there. And a lot of the tapes that I listen to are friends of mine who release instrumental music only, and it's just really awesome. And that's what Brian does. I point upstairs. He's upstairs working, but also he does a lot of guitar loops. And so yesterday he went live on Instagram for like 30 minutes and just did, guitar looping, all instrumental stuff, and it's really soothing. So yeah, if you decide you want to be creative as a way to express yourself and everything you're feeling, you can do whatever you want. There's no rules. That's the biggest thing I'm probably using my life to teach. It's like there's really no rules. Like the world has put a lot of rules in our brain, and the rules come from perfectionism, but not just perfectionism. They come from like a-studentism, or they come from like you have to be the best if you're going to do something, or you have to be the best if you're going to share something. And I've had a very mediocre voice my whole life. Like I can't sing like an American Idol style singer. and my voice will give out on me, or it won't do, like I'll be thinking what I want it to do and it won't do it. And I probably should have taken more voice lessons. I've taken very, very tiny amounts of voice lessons, like just being somebody's guinea pig in like when they needed a test student. And I could have probably done more to learn how to work with my very strange break and my low range and my weird, like, Muppety kind of tone quality. And like, but I've come, instead of lessons, what I've come to do is just learn how to put myself out there and learn how to just work with it and learn my own voice and learn what my voice likes to do instead of being imitative. And that's probably why my voice was always fighting me. L. Warren says, no rules. Yes, yes, yes. Exactly. I mean, especially if, like I said, I'm going to keep repeating it because people keep popping in and out, but this week's theme, creativity as therapy, especially if you're trying to use creativity to heal your life, or use creativity to get through your life, or use creativity to understand yourself and feel how you feel. It's like, well, then why would you overlay your creativity with a million rules? So that actually gets into something I'm going to be bringing up shortly. Well, maybe I should bring it up now. All right, here we go. Next segment. So I always forget that the next segment was added later, so it's actually not in here. It is here. Imaginary power. At one point in time, I was like making theme songs on instruments. I can't do it with one hand. Okay, I'm holding the phone. Well, whatever. At one point, I was making theme songs on the instruments all around here. And now I'm just singing them a cappella because I don't have a hand free and whatever. It's my own weird made-up show. Okay, imaginary power. I think, oh yeah, I decided imaginary power would be down here, so we'll use the suitcase backdrop. Oops. We keep all of our merch in these suitcases. So t-shirts, Jessica and the Rainbow and Cloudlight stuff. And they're kind of cute, but they make me think about, I've used this imaginary power segment a few different ways, but mainly so far, I meant it to be a very like deep topic, but it's turned into like imagining together that we're like going to Hawaii, or imagining we're flying together. So the imaginary power segment is just my attempt to remind you, whenever people talk about like positivity, sometimes that can be like an overlay that is ignoring your truth. And I don't believe in that. So I'm not saying like, let's imagine positive feeling. Feelings are feelings are feelings. And I believe what you feel is real. But where I think imaginary power comes in is that what you focus on is your choice. So maybe what you feel is not your choice, but what you focus on is your choice. And so you may be feeling anxious, but the more you put your mind power on that and give it a story and give it a whole world of being, of I have anxiety and I am this and I am that, it's like that's where your power lies, is to choose whether or not that is the story you want to tell yourself. And so today's imaginary power is a little heavier. I said to myself in my script, I really want my coffee. Hold on. Monday mornings are hard for me, even if I've been just mostly at home all weekend. And I don't know. Routine is hard for me. Doing things when they're not quite what I feel like doing yet, or I don't feel mentally or emotionally ready yet, is hard for me. My niece Brooklyn gave me this mug. Obviously it sits upside down the other way in the shelf, but when you rest it on the table, it sits on its ears. It's very cute. Okay, so again, I'm not saying be pretend positive right now. The world is terrifying right now. I understand that there's a lot to be afraid of, and there's a lot that's completely new and nothing like what we've lived through before. The imaginary power segment, I wrote, think of one good thing or moment from the weekend. So let's do that. I'm not about to tell you to be positive. I swear I'm not. Okay, so if you have a good moment from this weekend, in your mind, or a good thing, or a good moment from the weekend. The next thing I wrote is, what feelings come up from allowing yourself to think of something good right now amidst other people's suffering? That's in quotes. So this is actually a little more into the feeling your feelings category, so I'll get into more of that later. But here's why I put this in the imaginary power segment. A, I asked you to think of something from your weekend that was good. So that's in your mind. You're thinking of it. You've got it in your mind. But then here's where I believe the thoughts get negative around the positive thing, is when B, I asked you, or did I say one for the first? One, and then B, I think I said A and then B. I don't know. It'll be on YouTube later, and you can laugh at me if you want. But so you think of the good thing, a good moment from this weekend, but then B, what feelings come up from allowing yourself to think of something good right now amidst other people's suffering? Oh, thanks, Tommy. Oh, Tommy, I have to learn to say this because otherwise I'm just interrupting myself and you don't see these comments on the YouTube. So Tommy said, you warm my heart, Jess. So what feelings come up when you allow yourself to think of something good right now? I think that the reason I put this in the imaginary power segment is when other people are suffering, I think a lot of us feel guilty feeling good or feeling any awareness of our own good feelings. And so we're going to deal with this a lot today. Imaginary power is a reminder to you that your mind is a power, right? So, A, I asked you to think about something good you felt this weekend, or a good experience you had. Now it's in your mind. Why, and I'm not shaming you, I swear, but why, I'm shaming myself, really, like I've been doing this my whole life. Why, if I asked you to think of something or feel something good right now and really relive something from your weekend that actually felt good, and like as you're feeling that, why would you or I, more past me, but even recent past me, then shame yourself by feeling guilty that you're having any positive feelings right now? Why would you take something positive that I asked you to call to mind and then feel guilty about it just because other people are suffering? Like, I know we all do it. It feels logical. It feels logical if you're in crisis or if you're focused on current events and you see people suffering. It feels logical that while you have a positive experience, that you guilt or shame yourself for thinking about it or for enjoying it while other people are suffering. I understand that that seems like a logical, I don't want to say solution, but a logical way to be a better human being. And ultimately, if you want the reward feeling of being a better human being who doesn't sit around selfishly thinking and feeling your own positive thoughts and feelings while other people are suffering, you want that reward feeling of being a better human being. So it's like, it's a conundrum. It's an unsolvable conundrum, because to be a good human being would feel good, but if for the most of your life you feel bad, or if even when you're having a positive experience, and I asked you to go into your mind for the weekend, I'll tell you mine. Mine is a moment that I spent playing ukulele in my car a mile from my house, looking out at the lake and processing thoughts of all of this trauma and grief going on in the world right now. And for me, that was my good moment. And then I knew where I was going to lead you in this imaginary power segment today. That's a kind of weird one. It's a convoluted one. I'm trying to show you the layers of thought. If I asked you to do it, you A, can't feel guilty about it, but B, you maybe naturally did, because it just doesn't feel right when there are lots of really serious, difficult things going on. It doesn't feel right. It feels cold and callous and privileged and selfish. It feels all kinds of things to sit and think about your own good experiences at such a sad or heavy time in history. But what I'm telling you, there's a really cute bird right now. What I'm telling you, what I want to get through to you, if I can, maybe you don't need this, but if you do need this, I'm speaking to you. Oops. What I want to get through to people is that guilting and shaming yourself for having positive experiences amidst a crisis does not help people who are in pain. You're not helping anyone by keeping yourself feeling really negative and overwhelmed and sad. So when I said what feelings come up from allowing yourself to think of something good right now amidst other people's suffering, I guess I was hoping to just sort of make clear how guilt happens, or how how emotions are complex. A lot of negative emotions start with a positive source, and a lot of positive emotions start with a negative source. If you followed that, that's awesome. I have no idea if I'm being very clear. I just know that this is an important topic for me. And I've been wrestling with it much of my life. There's an inherent selfishness in your feelings when you, knowing the world is suffering, not just at a crisis like right now, but there have been other crises in the last few years. And every time I've checked out of those to focus on my own need for healing and my own need for warm feelings, I have felt selfish. I have felt guilty for that type of selfishness. And so I have had to work on that the last few years especially, but even before that, I have been working on this my whole life, it seems, is how to have an authentic positivity, not an overlay of positivity, not a fake positivity, not a you will be positive at all costs. Like that doesn't work. Or if it works, it comes at the cost of something else. This doesn't come at a cost of anything else as far as I can see. It doesn't hurt anyone if in your private mind and in your private heart you find moments of joy and positivity, but not, I don't even like that word anymore. It's been ruined. If you find moments of light, if you find, it just, that's all I'll leave you with in this segment. I know I'm going on about this because I feel like I haven't really said what I meant to say, and I don't know why I can't find my way into this theme today, or if it's too convoluted for my Monday morning brain. But when you're alone in your private heart and your private mind, it does nobody any good to feel guilty about any positive thoughts or positive feelings you naturally have. It does not help the world. It doesn't help your fellow man. It doesn't help your neighbor to beat yourself up anytime you feel positive just because other people around you are suffering. Because people have been suffering this whole time, all over the world. And you have to learn how to know that that's true. Do your part, find something you can do to help somebody, even if it's something weird like what I tend to do, which is some weird emotional sharing thing. Or I learned how to start public journaling. I have all kinds of thoughts and feelings all over my YouTube. If that's how I'm called to help, I don't know. Like Mr. Rogers didn't say, well, I'm not going to do my show anymore because so-and-so wants X, Y, and Z from me all day. No, he showed up in the way that felt right for him to show up for people. And yeah, maybe he can't be as helpful to each specific individual, but he was helpful in that way. That was his thing, Everyone has a thing they can do that can be helpful. And you don't need to feel guilty. If you're doing X, you don't need to feel guilty that you're not also A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, Y, and Z. Why would you feel guilty for that? You're X, But everyone does. I've never met someone who doesn't do this, especially people with really sensitive hearts. That's my cue. I'm moving on to the next segment. Okay. Imagine that was that. Okay, so time for the book report. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Whoops. I don't think I have a strong enough thing there to put my phone against. How's that? Kind of. It might stay. I'm knocking over pieces of a new 500-piece puzzle that I got. Okay, so today's book report segment is about The Artist's Way. So again, this week has its own theme creativity as therapy. And I'm just going to kind of take you through ways that I have used creativity as my therapy. Whenever therapists didn't work for me, whenever I had a trust issue with one, whenever one kind of betrayed my I don't want to say confidence. It's not like people went and did something illegal, but like I've had therapists straight up talk me out of things and just other things that kind of moved me away from learning to listen to my gut. And so my favorite therapist ever was one who was not my therapist. She was a friend of mine who happened to be a therapist. So her words held some weight, but she didn't maybe feel the same kind of obligation towards me that a therapist would. And that actually was useful for me because it kept me out of an authoritarian kind of dynamic, which is one of my triggers. So if you relate to that, don't feel bad, don't feel guilty if therapy doesn't work for you. Sorry, this show is really long and I just haven't had enough coffee today. And my water's just sitting over there and it'll sit there all the way till the end. Oh well. Okay, The Artist's Way. So I'm just going to read you a little bit from the intro. If you've never heard of Julia Cameron, she's a life changer. She's a game changer. If you're very blocked creatively, she's excellent for helping people break out of that. Okay, so I'm just going to read you a little from the introduction today so you can kind of experience for yourself what she's like. Introduction. When people ask me what I do, I usually answer, I'm a writer, director, and I teach these creativity workshops. The last one interests them. How can you teach creativity? They want to know. Defiance fights with curiosity on their faces. I can't, I tell them. I teach people to let themselves be creative. Oh, you mean we're all creative? Now disbelief and hope battle it out. Yes. You really believe that? Yes. So what do you do? Oh, sorry, it's backwards. This book is what I do, she says. For a decade now, I have taught a spiritual workshop aimed at freeing people's creativity. I have taught artists and non-artists, painters and filmmakers and homemakers and lawyers, anyone interested in living more creatively through practicing an art. Even more broadly, anyone interested in practicing the art of creative living. While using, teaching, and sharing tools I have found, divined, and been handed, I have seen blocks dissolved and lives transformed by the simple process of engaging the great creator in discovering and recovering our creative powers. And she puts great creator. Oh yeah, sorry, hold on. She puts great creator in like, capital G, capital C. And I was a atheist or agnostic when I first was reading this, and so I was like, oh. And I had been raised Christian, and I had studied Taoism and Buddhism too, so that's the shortest chapter of my life, is being an agnostic and an atheist, but it was helpful to me that she approached God in this way, which is to say, don't say God if you don't believe in God. Like, that's not, for her, that doesn't matter. That, if anything, would just continue to block the creativity if you try to believe in something that you don't naturally believe in, or just trying at all. So she's where a lot of my beliefs on that come from, why trying feels so fake and cloying to me, and trying, especially at creativity, anyway, I'll keep reading. The great creator, that sounds like some Native American god. Or, that sounds too Christian, too New Age, too. Unquote. Stupid, simple-minded, threatening, I know. Think of it as an exercise in open-mindedness. Just think, okay, great creator, whatever that is, and keep reading. Allow yourself to experiment with the idea that there might be a great creator, and you might get some kind of use from it in freeing your own creativity. Because The Artist's Way, title of book, is in essence a spiritual path initiated and practiced through creativity. This book uses the word God. This may be volatile for some of you, conjuring old, unworkable, unpleasant, or simply unbelievable ideas about God as you were raised to understand him. And she puts him in quotes. So if you believe that, like, don't let this be offensive to you if you can. Like, let this be an example of someone who's trying to welcome people into the experience of being connected. It worked for me because I have needed, still to this day, I need to believe that my own sort of mystical, divine connection to something bigger than myself is, I'll say, equally important to anything that I believe or was taught to me. Like, we have a compass within us. Like, if we're created in the image of something, if you believe that, then I am a creator too. It's complicated. Whatever. I'm not trying to solve the mysteries of God or great creator or divine spirit, anything. Anyway, she says, please be open-minded. Okay, I think I'll stop there for today. But yep, I highly recommend this book. There's courses in it online. There's 2 key concepts in The Artist's Way that I will probably read from later this week. Both are really helpful. One is actually a little hard to do right now because it involves going out and about, but I'll share more on that tomorrow maybe. All right, so now we are going to, normally right now we would go into feeling your feelings. I'm going to go a little out of order today. And we're going to get present first today. So, this next segment is called The Present. We're going to go to the feelings chair, but I can just feel that I'm a little bit off. Sorry. I have a tendency to speak to my audience, I guess you could say. I get very overwhelmed by people. That's why doing a live stream version of this is probably really good for me to kind of, I don't know, learn how to, I don't know. Hang on, I'm putting a filter on. I guess just learn how to be honest with myself and be honest with all of you. I don't think anyone's going to sit and watch all of these on my YouTube and follow a through line, but it's important for me to be aware of what I believe and who I am and what I'm sharing, and sort of watch for the ways that I want to soften what I believe out of fear of what you may think of me. And I think we all do this all the time. But some of us do it more than others. I have a bit of a chameleon quality in that regard. And I know some people who don't have it at all. But those same people know that they would piss a bunch of people off all the time with who they are. And so those people would never make a show like this. At least I don't think so. All right, so we are at the segment. I jumped a segment to get to this ahead of time, but we're just going to get present. So if you've never had anyone help you get present before, if you don't know how to meditate, some books will tell you to just take some deep breaths. You can do it rhythmically if you want to. Some will say to focus all your mind on your breathing. Some will say if you catch yourself thinking that you should just quickly label it thinking and then let it go. That doesn't quite work for me. I know I say this like every show, but I tend to need to allow the thinking if the thinking happens and be kind of non-judging towards it. Pema Chodron talks about that, of being like a detective. I also usually look around the room, pretending I'm like 1 year old and just kind of take in the color, take in this moment. Sometimes soothing music helps. Sometimes when I go to get present, I realize I feel a lot in my body, and I'm thinking and feeling too much to really comfortably get present. And if that's the case, there's a segment a little later in the show that's all about that, how to feel what you feel in your body. I don't know why I touched my hair. I've never used my hair as a body part in the body and mind segment, but, you know. But there are exercises you can do. Like, I don't meditate very often at all. I get present, but I don't meditate actively very often. But I do use the techniques that I talk about in the body and mind segment quite often, to just kind of get in touch with what I'm feeling. Sort of what I'm doing whenever I'm like going by the lake and writing songs and rambling to myself on my YouTube for like an hour. Okay, I feel more present, so I feel a little more ready to talk about this next subject. I am already in the feelings chair. A little hard to see through this filter. I'm going to try to talk about this topic. I already talked about it quite a bit in the imaginary power segment, but the feeling for today... Oh, hold on. I have to flip it, and I have to sing my fake theme song. Feeling your feelings. Maybe I should change the filter. Let's do some hearts. Hearts, hearts, hearts. Well, I can't find. You can do this one. Okay. Let's see if I can get that to stay. All right. Feeling your feelings. So today's feeling is guilt. I know I said on Friday that I would talk about these complex, different thoughts around love that were coming up in Friday's show, but I'm going to save that for tomorrow because I'm feeling a little low energy today, and also because the imaginary power segment brought up guilt. So let's talk about it. Overall, I don't think guilt is useful. Overall, I would say that guilt... There's a bird outside with a giant fuzzy in its mouth. Let me see if I can even capture this. No, don't fly away! Oh, he flew and he lost part of his fuzzy. Oh, he probably needed it for his nest. I'm such a jerk. See? There. Now you have an example. Now I feel guilty. I just scared that bird, and it dropped its giant white fuzzy thing that it was probably going to put in its nest. And I ruined its nest building moment with my invasiveness. Now, I could feel guilty about that. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to try to make that into my example of how to talk about guilt. How do I want to talk about guilt? Well, I could go back to what I was talking about in the imaginary power segment, which is that if you are having a positive thought or a positive experience or a positive feeling, or if like happened a few segments ago, I ask you to think of something positive, something that warms your heart, something that occurred, even if it's just a tiny moment like I had, you know, playing some ukulele and just processing your feelings from everything going on right now, you know, and you have this experience and I've asked you to draw it to mind and it's beautiful and it makes you feel good, and then that second feeling, that layer on top of it of feeling possibly guilty to be having any positive experiences right now while other people are suffering, that's guilt. And I guess what I'm trying to say on this topic is that for our collective humanity, it doesn't do any good, as far as I can see, to sit around, say you are feeling something positive. It doesn't feel good, you know. Like, if you're feeling positive 100% of the time right now, A, I think you're lying, and B, like, yeah, maybe you've got some sort of mental thing that's making it so you're blocking this all out. And I've posted about that recently. Like, that could be the effects of previous PTSD. Like, maybe you've had so many traumatic experiences in your life and PTSD that for whatever reason right now at this time in history you can't really feel and experience everything that's happening. Maybe you're just making the best of it and you haven't felt and dealt with anything of what's going on yet. And you know what? In my opinion, that's fine. You don't need to feel guilty about that. How would that help anything to feel guilty about that? Like, we're all processing things differently, and we all have different strengths, and we all have different things that we are bringing to this global situation right now. And if somebody, because of their PTSD or because of their outlook on life or because of their experience or their conditions, if somebody is able to maintain some sort of positive feeling on a regular basis right now, why should that person who might be adding some light and some levity to the world, why should that person feel guilty about that? Like, why should we all be feeling anxiety or fear or depression in regards to what's going on right now? I think, so my thoughts on guilt are that it adds a negative layer on top of something positive, and sometimes it just fully swallows up the positive. It's almost like the opposite of the sort of movement around anti-positive thinking, you know. If you're actually feeling something kind of negative and overwhelming, this suggestion that we should overlay it with positive thinking, I think, is kind of cruel. Like, you feel what you feel, what you feel. And if you want to overlay it with positive thinking, that's different. If you have had enough trauma in your life or enough sadness, or you just can't bear that in your skin and you want to overlay it by writing a gratitude list or something, that's you. Hi, Hunter. Aw, thanks, Hunter says I miss you. Oh, thanks, Hunter. I used to give speeches like this at a job. We'd be in a choir where I used to play piano, and I would just motivational speak sometimes whenever I felt that the mood of the room got a little too sad or a little too heavy, or a little too self-serious. So, in my opinion, guilt, especially if anyone uses guilt like a tool, uses it to shame you, uses it to infect your brain with a thought that your natural feelings are not okay. If someone tells you, you know, don't feel what you feel, you should feel this instead, that creates this like guilt loop that you can't get out of, where you feel guilty for feeling what you naturally feel. That's not useful in the world. There's no scenario that I can think of where that is useful. I think it's like a power tactic, maybe. So maybe it's useful to that person who's doing it to you. Maybe people don't even know that they're doing it to you. They're just, I mean, my view is that they probably do, because they're probably trying to get you to do something that they want you to do that you don't naturally want to do. And by using guilt or shame type manipulative tactics, whether or not they meant to, they've gotten you to do the thing they want you to do. And that maybe is useful in that scenario. Like, say as a kid, you were about to run in the street, you know, and get hit by a car. So a mother in that scenario could use it to try to get you to not kill yourself inadvertently. Then it's useful, and that is the mother trying to control you. But the problem comes when, as we get older, we then can't get out of those cycles and those dynamics. You know, when we're supposed to be learning how to check in with our own inner compass, you know, once we're adults especially. Hunter said she was the best piano teacher we had. Aw, thanks, Hunter. I've learned I have to read them aloud, otherwise I don't save them, because they, when I save these videos to my YouTube later, you'll just see me going, ah, and then there's no comment there, and it doesn't even show what I'm reacting to. I don't know. So that's the Feeling Your Feelings segment for today. You know, feel what you feel. There are ways to still rise up out of what you feel if what you feel feels too heavy for you. But I think it's much wiser to have that rising up come from yourself, not from guilt and not from shame. Because a negative feeling like guilt or shame is never going to help you feel better. Like, that's one of my, I'll say this. This is the last thing I'll say on this. This is one of my biggest criticisms of like the movement on like towards caring for all. You know, this movement of shaming each other into getting us to care more societally about each other. In my opinion, it's a attempt to motivate action and motivate care in people who might be burnt out or overwhelmed by what this current world looks like. And some people are shutting down, and you know, this idea of shaming each other into right action or guilting each other into right action, I think has done more harm than good. I think it's created a lot of people who feel guilty that they're not being good enough people, not being kind enough towards their neighbor, not being kind enough towards collective humanity. We've never lived at a time in history where it's so easy to know the suffering of other people. You are one tiny person. You're nothing. I'm nothing. Okay, that's not true. We're each everything, but there's billions of us. And you may be everything to your mother or to your best friend, and I may be everything to my mother or my best friends. You know, I have two. You know, you are so important and collectively, globally, so small. And there's never been a time in history where we can know this many people and all the suffering that they're enduring. Like, according to Facebook, I have over 2,000 friends. That's not true. I have very, very few, you know? And it's like, it gives us this illusion that we have more ability to do something for other people than we really do. And it makes it very hard for us to feel okay focusing small on the 3 or 4 or 5 people right around us. That's enough. If everyone focused small and felt good about it, or felt okay about it, or felt loving about it for their very small community, rather than while you're focusing small on the 3, 4, 5 people around you, feeling guilty for the 1,995 people, random Facebook friends, that you're ignoring. There's never been a time in history where we feel guilty constantly that we're not doing enough because we're seeing this sort of artificial world where we feel like we could or should be doing more for other people, whether it's from reading so many articles or whether it's from just seeing updates from so many different people. In the past, those would have just been people from our past, and we wouldn't have been able to stay in touch with them. And I'm not even advocating for that. Like, I like knowing about these people. These birds are so distracting. Hey, buddy. I like knowing about people. But I absolutely, 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, need to release any guilt that I should be doing more for them. Like, already, just by me live streaming 5 days a week, that's me doing as much as I can do to just, like, share some beliefs and share some feelings and try to help you work through some of the challenging thoughts or feelings you might be having during a time like this. That's it. I'm at my max, you know? And does that mean that I walk around feeling guilty whenever I notice that other people are doing more than me? Sometimes. But do I hold on to that guilt for very long? No. And that is a practice. That's not because I'm better than you. That's because I practice it. I practice letting go of that guilt because I know it's not one of the positive emotions. It does not make me rise up. It does not make me feel better, and it does not give me more energy, and it doesn't make me more able to then show up for you in this way, or show up for my partner in another way, or show up for my own life, for myself. Any emotion that makes you feel like you are losing energy is truly depleting your energy, and then you're less able to show up for yourself and for other people when you do feel inspired to. In fact, the amount of times that you'll feel inspired to will shrink the more you allow guilt to just take over and rob you of your life and your life force and your energy. So that's what I feel about guilt. Feel it initially if you need to. If it makes you feel like a kinder human for even feeling guilty at feeling good. But then as soon as you can, let it go. Because we're all doing as much as we can. And when you have more energy and when you have more strength in your heart, you'll do more. And when you need to focus on yourself, some of the most giving people doing the most are actually doing the least for themselves. And they may be depleting themselves from, like, having no well of inner strength for themselves. and they're out there caring for others, but their self is aching and screaming at them, maybe in the form of illness or in the form of some sort of mental illness, that they need more attention on themselves, more care for themselves. So try not to judge. That's a saying I learned somewhere. I think it was in a 12-step room that I used to be a part of. I don't do that anymore, but there were some good things it said. One of them said, try not to compare your insides to other people's outsides, because you don't know what they're struggling with. All right, we're going to go on. Next segment. Creative space, 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 space. All right, so we're going to go to another space. Actually, I'm trying to think if I even need to go there today. I maybe don't. You know what, for today, I'm trying to make the show a little shorter because I have an appointment I have to get to. Let's stay here today. So, creative space segment. I'm just going to walk you through how to, let's see. Let me read my little list. What did I say we were going to do for creative space? Talk about making the NPR Tiny Desk video. Feelings in creating something lo-fi. Okay, so today for the creative space segment, let me find a new filter. We're going to talk about being lo-fi and what that means and how that feels. So I did not mean to be a lo-fi artist. I meant to be very high quality. Hold on one second. These filters are not loading. Well, here, maybe I'll go back the other way. Do. Is that hearts? No. That hippo's cute, but that is not what I want. Let's try this button. Sorry, this is taking a while. Oh, there's one I like. Okay. That works, whatever. Okay. So being a lo-fi artist and like what that even means. So like today I'm going to make my little NPR Tiny Desk video kind of late to the game. I'm just going to use my 2 keyboards, turn on a beat, play this keyboard on my favorite sound, number 12, and just sing over the top, and it'll be what it is, because I do have some equipment where I could make like the voice louder. There's my Cube amp. That thing is like $300. It's meant for street recording. I've got a microphone set up over there by the piano. I've tried to do things higher quality before. But strangely enough, to come back to guilt and shame, in my case, doing things high quality actually comes out of a feeling of have to. Like I have to create a certain way for people to care. And what I've learned in my life is that I have released albums that are very high quality, and I have released albums that are like one take at my little keyboard. I've released things that are just one take at a piano. And it's complicated because there are times that the beautiful version of one take thing is something that I've not been able to recapture. So say I wrote something and the way it came out that first time is exactly the way I wanted it to sound, and there's something about that recording that has like a magic to it maybe that I just love, and then later I'll try to recapture it like in the studio, whether it's actually going to a paying studio or in our house with all the good technique and good setup, and there will be times where I can't recapture whatever that vibe and feeling is. So, what I say to you is, if you want to create, if creating would feel good to you, then don't worry too much about the quality. In this day and age, iPhones, phones in general, the voice memos sound pretty good. Sufjan Stevens has released songs that were created as voice memos. I mean, maybe if you're a high-level professional, you don't release everything that way, but could you release a lot that way? I think so. Granted, I'm not making money from music, so if money is your goal, I would say then just don't be in the music industry. There isn't money in it. There's money for the rare few, but that's the same as saying you should, as a life strategy, play the lottery. That doesn't make sense. As a life strategy, being in music is not a good life strategy. It's more something that if you feel called or compelled to create, then do it. But if you are nursing and nurturing old beliefs of being some sort of like famous person or influencer or any of those things, like that is way more akin to playing the lottery. You will waste tons of your time trying to figure out what works, but what works will change every year. Like, do what you love. And if you want to create little lo-fi things, just create lo-fi and don't worry too much about the quality. I don't know. If the quality sounds good to you, then that should matter most of all, I think. Because to sit around second guessing and wondering what other people will think is good, it's like having a reviewer already in your brain. Oh, that reminds me. I'll talk about that tomorrow in the Creative Space segment. I'll write this down today. I said I was going to talk about it last Friday, and then I didn't talk about it. So right and left brain. Tomorrow. There. I'll draw an arrow. I'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. So that's the Creative Space segment for today. It's just an encouragement to create and not worry too much about quality, other than quality that you yourself like. And if you can't get your own work to a quality that you would like, then either A, lower your standards and come to terms with where you're at. You know, it's like a third grader wanting to already be an adult. It's like, be the grade you're at. And if you want to get better, then you can take lessons in art or music or anything, or learn to enjoy the grade you're at and try to make small bits of growth towards self-improvement. But, creativity is not about being a professional at something before you've even mastered certain skills. Like, just, it's about expression. All right, next segment. Your body and mind. Okay. Wait, sorry, I sang it too soon. Oh, wait, I skipped a segment. Sorry. Spiritual stuff. Let's change the filter. I don't see all my usual hearts today. There's normally a ton of little heart things to choose from, and they're just not there right now, and I don't really know why. And I haven't really checked out these filters well enough to know what they're going to look like, so I'm kind of reluctant to put them on, but there, we'll do that. Okay, spiritual stuff. I guess all I'll say today about spiritual stuff is that guilt, just to keep it all with the same topic for today in the creativity as therapy and also in how guilt is related. Guilt is not spiritual. And some people learned guilt in a church, or they learned guilt from their parents or from their school, their teachers. A lot of people use guilt to pressure themselves to get themselves to produce the results that they want to produce. But if you are trying to be a person who is connected to your own heart and spirit and mind, guilt is not spiritual. It, in my opinion, and from every different spiritual book I've read on so many different types of spiritual topics, from Christianity to Buddhism and Taoism, I don't see any evidence that guilt has anything to do with spirituality or that guilt is spiritual in any way. I would say that it resonates very lowly. Like if you talk about like a vibratory kind of thing, it resonates lowly like fear. So I think guilt comes from fear. And it resonates like fear. And it won't help you become who you're trying to become. It might help you to externally appear like what you want to become. It might create a sort of overlay, like a look of being like what you wanted to be. If you guilt yourself into doing certain behaviors in order to seem like what you thought you would be. But at the end of the day, it's creating very low level kind of depressing vibrations in you. Guilt is not good. That's my feeling on it. Anyway, I could say more, but that's about all I wanted to say about spiritual stuff today. So we're going to go on to the body and mind segment. Next, I need a different filter for this segment, but, oh, I gotta do the theme song. Hold on. Your body and mind. Da-na-na-na. Okay. Let's just leave this filter. So the body and mind segment is just where I show you how I work with my body using my mind to understand what I'm feeling and hopefully like convert some of those feelings if need be. I think for the body and mind segment today, since I know Brian has to make some lunch, he's working from home now, let's put on a tape, some soothing music for you. And let's see who I got in here. This is my friend, a tape from my friend Mike Clifford. And let's see how this sounds. It says it's playing, but it's not playing. Well, it might be a second. Let's try turning it around. Tapes are weird like that. There we go. Okay. So, your body and mind. Thank you, Mike Clifford. If you want to check out Mike's music, he goes by There Are No Thieves in This Town. And you can go on Bandcamp, There Are No Thieves in This Town.bandcamp.com. Okay. So for your body and mind segment, what I like to do is just kind of use my mind to scan my body. Just kind of ask myself, where do I feel some emotion? I feel it kind of like up in my high part of my heart right now. Sometimes I feel it a little lower down, but I feel a lot of emotion right here, right now. And then just with my mind, with my active imagination, I ask that part of my body, what is it trying to tell me? And I learned this from a licensed therapist. It's a real technique that they teach. I did not make this up. And I just ask it, what you trying to tell me? And then I just listen. And you might feel a little bit crazy listening to a body part, but it honestly does work. You just kind of ask it, what are you trying to tell me right now? And it can be any body part, really. Common ones might be like your throat feeling tight or having a headache or your gut feeling kind of clenched. But it could also be a positive feeling you're feeling in a body part. You just put that hand there and you just ask it what it's trying to tell you. Now I'll act out what mine's telling me because it's really weird. I mean, I hear full sentences, but I don't think you have to hear your own heart talking to you. I think you can also just get one word, and that word can be your own mind describing the sensation. It's not anything as weird as it sounds, really. You just kind of imagine what it's trying to tell you. So my like kind of upper heart area is telling me that it's exhausted right now. That it doesn't feel like it has that much to give right now. And it's trying to be giving, but it's feeling kind of depleted. For the record, I've never made a show like this before. I've been doing this now for 8 weekdays straight, and it's not a reflection on you that I find myself unable to regularly put myself in front of people and try to be helpful. Especially receiving confirmation through people coming in and out that it may or may not be helpful. And that's very hard for me to realize as a person who has spent much of my life feeling and actually being unpopular, except when I'm in roles where it's very clear what I'm doing for people, like being a music director or accompanying. It's very hard to be someone who feels like they're overall likable while being overall unpopular. And so this part of me is just kind of drained because I get these ideas and these visions of ways that I feel I can be helpful. And then I come to put them into the world and actually end up feeling fairly unpopular. And then things that are popular are like zombie shows. It's very hard to be in a world where you feel that the thoughts and the feelings that you've worked on for over a decade are things that soothe my soul and I want to pass them on, but at the end of the day, they're not popular. That is a very heart-hurting kind of feeling. And that's why I'm saving these on YouTube, because today is the least amount of people I've ever had watching since doing these. It's episode 9. It's okay. That's what my whole YouTube channel feels like. Because sometimes I share a bunch of videos all at once and they end up with no views forever, you know. Sometimes I share them a little more spread out, but then still they only get like 20 views total. That's just my level of popularity. And I've been this freakishly low-key mixed with, or no, freakishly unpopular mixed with prolific. It doesn't make any sense. Most people like me would be deeply discouraged by their lack of popularity and they would want to quit. And I have quit, sometimes for like 7 years at a time. I've quit sharing and I've gone full introvert many, many times over. 7 years was the longest, but even if it's just in short bursts. And then I keep getting this revived feeling that I should put myself out there and share with the world, you know, and be this light to people. And then it's like, at the end of the day, it's just mostly not that wanted. Or that's how it feels. Even if I structure it and try to script it. And that part of my heart is just tired. It's tiring to give something and structure something and share something that I would be fine just receiving personally and doing introvertedly. But instead I feel this calling to put things out there for others and then to just kind of feel like it's not needed or wanted, or most people just don't want to go through the processes that I've gone through, or maybe they don't feel safe to go through them, because maybe when they start to go through them they feel too much and it's too overwhelming and it's better to just watch TV shows or other things that are more entertaining than this meandering whatever. I'm not trying to judge you. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. You don't owe me anything. But that's just how it feels in my heart, to be a person that feels like I have a lot of things to give and to not know how to give them. All right, that's how you work with your body and the feelings in your body. All right, coming up to the last part. Thank you, Mike Clifford, for providing me some underscoring. Oh, I should push stop. Goodbye. All right, so the last segment before the closing song is called Song Time. So for Song Time, I'm going to practice my lo-fi little song that I'm going to do for the NPR Tiny Desk Contest later today. And yeah, and you can watch. This song is called Bird Song. Whoops. And it's all about how you're never too old, you're never too broken, you're never too lost to be found by yourself. It's just basically a sentiment of it's never too late to do things differently, to become what you want to become. All right. Here we go. Hi, Marianne. Sorry I didn't acknowledge you before. I was in a deep space. All right. Oops. Let's see if I got everything set up. That's that. Yep. Okay, here we go. This is called Bird Song. Thanks for being here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I gotta start that over because I didn't know how fast I had the beat set up. I always start the song really slow and then I start rushing, but I can't do that because this beat's gonna go with it. 1, 2, 3, 4. More than That song is about what you could still be right now if you just let go and dream. And the birds came up to my bushes and they watched and listened, so that was kind of fun. Birds like it when I play music, I guess. Maybe more than when I just ramble. Let me change the filter for the ending. Alright, so, oops, forgot to flip it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. I hope that you found something helpful in this little show today. One, two, three. The world can be your friend. There's no reason why it can't. The world can be your friend. All you have to do is take its hand and sing. And sing. And sing. And sing. Bye. See you next time. Have a great day.